Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Shahid Kardar.
Director, Mr. Razak Daud, members of the Board of Trustees, the Vice Chancellor, members of the faculty, parents, and what I see as the future leadership of Pakistan. Assalamu alaikum. When we were walking in, someone asked me, are you going to make a policy statement? Use this occasion for that? And I said, no, I want to talk to the students. And this is my sermon, if you want to call it, to the students. Now, you as students are now all grown up. In modern societies, graduating from college is the rite of passage. Whether you know it or not, LUMS is forever part of your life. And I heard some children saying that in the corridors as I was walking in. The narrative of each of your individual existence will have several paragraphs, if not pages, dedicated to the time that you spent here. When in my earlier incarnation as a consultant, I used to interact with young researchers, I discovered that there were just two types of graduates. One who had been at LUMS, and the others who wanted to be at LUMS. I thought it would be a light of applause. And quite frankly, I could relate to it, having been overawed by the energy and brewing intellect which had flourished on the foundations laid by the faculty, whose capability I've been an ardent admirer of over the years, perhaps partly because many of them are my friends. The emphatic evidence of this recognition is that the researchers that I took on as colleagues for assisting me on studies, projects, you name it, were all from LUMS. I can see how approvingly you're all lapping this up. You know, that's how easy it is to flatter people in this country. But seriously, perhaps I have a Lahore bias. And I believe that LUMS is perhaps the finest university in this country. That means all of you who've managed to secure admission and now graduating are the most promising young Pakistanis about to embark on their careers. Knowing the Pakistani system, many of you will become business and corporate leaders, opinion makers for civil society, and I sense and hope many of you will remain in Pakistan. This may not seem very exciting at this point, but once you get a better sense of the economic and political challenges facing the developed world over the next 18 to 24 months, I assure you Pakistan will start looking really good. However, as you bask in this well-deserved glory with your family and friends and close one chapter in your life, let me share with you a few thoughts that you may or may not find support for. The question I wish to raise is, what will you do with the good fortune that many of you carry from birth and have secured it by doing the right things, going to the right schools, excellent grades, and now in LUMS. And of course, I'm aware of those LUMS that LUMS was able to accommodate through its celebrated outreach program. They will get social mobility from the capabilities that LUMS further developed and refined. Parental expectations are generally good, but not always. Your parents were exactly like you 25, 30 years ago. and many of them are now pillars of our society. Hence, they will want you to carry on what worked for them, a tried and tested formula that will ensure that one day you will be proud parents in 25 to 30 years watching your child graduate, perhaps even from LUMS. Many of them were perhaps not as fortunate as you are at your age, and worked themselves into their coveted positions today. They now manage or are senior managers in multinationals, banks, blue chip local corporates, media houses, and ad agencies. All places where one starts at the bottom and rises up the ranks, where the poorly air-conditioned and noisy cubicles will eventually become corner offices with large-sized windows and oversized ACs. Let's face it, deep down, you all aspire for managerial positions. A regular salary, clear rules for advancement, family connections that help, peers who are familiar, a working environment that is comfortable, and if you stick it out, you will be rewarded with more perks, a higher salary, and a better lifestyle. These steps will, of course, give you a sense of achievement, and you will fall into a comfortable routine. Then one day, you will be able to finance a lifestyle of ease. In a nutshell, you will become self-sustaining. And your parents, needless to say, will be proud of you. The question is, should you think of doing something different? Is there a need, even a need to do something different? Why rock the boat for no apparent reason? Why take risks? Whether we like it or not, most of us are all risk-averse. It's a special breed of people that voluntarily takes risk. And let me be honest, I always have time for risk takers because I gain so much from them by engaging with them. These are the people who are outliers. Their experiences and mindset is very different from that of most of us. For someone who's as risk-averse as you, I find them fascinating. And not just for the interesting anecdotes they have, which I can share with my equally averse friends, risk-averse friends, there's more to it. Let me move on to what I really want to say. None of you can predict fate. Who knows where you will be tomorrow and then the day after. I look at myself and I can tell you that had I not quit an accounting firm, despite the large financial loss I took then in terms of life earnings, simply to write for Viewpoint and Dawn as a hobby in the 1980s, frankly, I would not have been standing before you today, having done a host of things that I've enjoyed enormously. The pecuniary losses of chartering such a course have been huge, but I assure you I would do it all over again. Running the Punjab Education Foundation, just to illustrate a point, which started providing free education to 547,000 children in 2.5 years only, has been the most fulfilling experience. Again, this was all honorary, had nothing to do with money. I don't fall in that category, but I can tell you outliers change society and history, and often for the better. Yes, not all of you will become outliers, but some of you will. It takes the strength of one's conviction to veer away from the beaten path and explore, and when you explore something new, you learn much more. Simple, right? But that's true. When you were younger, you would recall that you would go into the mountains as a group and walk along a Pagdandi there was always someone who wanted to go and explore something new, to create his or her own trail. And at the end of the day, the stories he or she had were so much more colorful. I'm sure you'll say, that's all fine when you're kids. But let me tell you, this is also true and matters in adulthood. Take a hypothetical example. You have a choice between joining an international bank or a multinational as a management trainee or look into business opportunities that pioneer new activities. Since we all know what is required for an entry-level bank job, let's focus on this entrepreneurial stint. I admit such a career will not be easy to launch, as you may end up following many dead leads. You will have to do a lot of legwork, and there is no guaranteed reward. You will not have the luxury of going into the same office every morning, switching on your AC, but will have to explore a new path every day. It might sound positively intimidating, but this can be the difference between living a life that means something and living a life with nothing more than good means. It is the difference between walking down the road less traveled as opposed to a well-trodden path, of taking risks over tiptoeing around life. And it is a difference that Robert Frost will tell you certainly deserves some thought on this important milestone in your lives. At the risk of making too fine a point about it, this is the difference between wanting to play safe and launching a new idea and innovating. Now ask yourself a few simple questions. Which path is more interesting? What requires more creative thinking? Where will you learn more? Which path will give you a greater sense of achievement? Of course, if it works, that is. Yes, that qualifies the scary part, isn't it? If it works. Rest assured, being an entrepreneur means living with risk. You cannot get away from that. But then ask yourself another set of questions. At what stage in life can you take risks and explore a new path, a new terrain? At what stage in life is learning more important than financial security? At what stage in life can you afford to be idealistic and change a system for the better? Based on my life experience, I can tell you with all honesty that someone who can think on his and her feet, has been exposed to the kind of knowledge that you have been, and carries the confidence that comes from strong convictions, is a sure bet over a picture-perfect, run-of-the-mill candidate. Even when I interview people at the State Bank, that's what I'm looking for, I assure you. Before any of you says, but this is really for the rich or those who have access to funds, let me contradict this claim at the outset. Finance or capital is not a constraint. It is the poverty of our imagination and our own risk appetite. Of course, you need a lucky break. Everyone needs a lucky break. But believe me, a brilliant idea will invariably get one. My advice to you, for what it is worth, is not to let an institutional employer fit blinders on your eyes that will remain in place for the rest of your lives. Do not be daunted by the risk or the fear of failure. It is better to have tried and failed than not to have tried at all. And do not become jaded and cynical like people of my generation. Instead, be optimistic and challenge conventional thinking. So as a first step, remember, do what you enjoy, since most of your adult life would be spent working. which may mean that you will end up with a job or career by sheer accident and you're looking for it passionately. The same as it is in love, right? So never lose faith. Even if you have no connections, innate talent, energy, and the ability to work hard is the best card that you will be holding. Even in this society where we know connections is a more potent factor for personal progress. For ensuring success, you need to back it up with hunger, coupled with the determination to defy the socioeconomic factors that discourage or fail to facilitate the development of entrepreneurial behavior in this country. I know it is easy to get disheartened seeing your peers on Facebook or your friends who've managed to attain a comfortable lifestyle abroad. But that certainly was not for me, and I would recommend the same. Life is about making choices, involving trade-offs, without any guarantees of success. But there is nothing like making it in your own homeland. That is where you get a real kick. That is why even those who've done well across the seas yearn for recognition in Pakistan. All you need to do is to exploit the space of opportunities available to you if you look around. Unfortunately, there are no shortcuts. You may be extremely talented and sharp, and although success may come to you faster than to others, to sustain it, you have to work hard and earn the respect of your peers and subordinates, especially in this increasingly competitive environment. It is hard work that can even turn failure into success. With sheer determination, you can take on challenges unfazed. You've all had a wonderful start to life. And you owe this to yourself, and to frankly, to use a hackneyed term, an overburdened term, your country as well, that gave your parents the ability to give you this start. It's time to give back. This country and its less fortunate people need you. So my advice would be, make your mark, be an outlier, take risks while you can. I know it is easier said than done, but let me be the first one to cheer you from the sidelines, all those who have a fire in their belly and the urge and determination to pursue their dreams and take on the world rather than simply play safe. However, whichever path you choose to traverse, remember in this highly competitive age of specialization, you can take up any profession and be a success, provided you are the best at it. There is always room at the top, never at the bottom, because you get trampled over by the feet. I remember when my son was going for his education abroad, I said to him, look, I don't care if you specialize in Elizabethan embroidery, as far as you're the best at it. And of course, he was smart enough not to do that, because I would have killed him if he had. Finally, let me admit that our generation could have done a far better job in developing and managing this country, so that we could have given you a stronger, a socially cohesive and just society, and a more robust economy on which to build an impressive edifice. But I'm fully confident that since your generation is more competent, dynamic, and demanding of good governance and better quality leadership, this country, I'm sure, is in safer and more capable hands. With these words, I wish you Godspeed. Thank you very much.